All right, welcome to another Pro Football Doc Sports Injury Central podcast. Down to the final four. Post-divisional round, we're on to the conference championship final four here. Welcome, Jacob. Taylor's in the room too. We're at the Six Score War Room Studios. I kind of missed the War Room.
Yeah.
I think that Bills-Chiefs game would have been really fun in the War Room. Instead, it's fun to be with my family at home too, but we lose something not being in the War Room with the one game. What'd you guys think of the games?
Well, we basically did it with you before we recorded the podcast. We're here on a Monday afternoon, but we ran through most of the scenarios, the fake punt, the fumble, just fall on it. That game had so much.
I know, fall on the fumble. The other thing that poor guy misses the field goal. Do you feel robbed at all of a great ending, or are you happy that I mean, look, our quote pick covered. It should have covered without the Mecole easily with a Mecole Hardman fumble and the fall on it instead of scoop and score and whatever. But the bottom line is, Bills and their linebackers did have problems. Pacheco had a day, right. Kelce had a day, which is kind of what we were thinking. But yeah, look, I don't know if you guys saw, but my daughter was more interested in the game than my son was. The son is the Mahomes fan. Yeah. He was playing computer games and watching the game. She had her Swiftie Travis Kelce 87 jersey on, and then the game was over. How about this one? Mom says, "Okay, time to take a shower." She goes, "No." Well, this game's over. And then my daughter shoots her a glare, and my wife goes, "Oh yeah, they still might show Taylor."
Gotta stay for the post game.
Yeah. And so she bought herself a few more minutes watching the game. And my big mistake, though, is, look, I told you guys, I'm in California, so I don't bet anything here. And I was saying this as a joke, and I really should have done it. I should have put some money on KC to get to the Super Bowl before this game.
Yeah.
Because I already know, my daughter, who's 11, said, "You took twin brother Davis to the Super Bowl last year. You have to take me if Kansas City wins." And of course, Davis's head will spin. She doesn't even know football. This is like my team, the Chiefs. And they usually don't sell tickets in threes, so I need to buy freaking 4 tickets to the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know, what are the odds of Chiefs making the Super Bowl before yesterday's game?
That's a good question.
Probably get plus 400, plus 500.
Probably that range.
Range. So maybe I could have bet a little bit of money on them making it, and then basically said, "Here's $2,000 of sunk cost.
Here's the tickets for free."
Yeah. Or I'm buying tickets for $2,000 in case they make it to the Super Bowl. But
it's less of a loss if they don't make it. Yeah.
So now this week I'm in a dilemma, right? Do I root for the kids because they like KC, or do I?
Well, before the year, you would have never thought she would be part of this equation, right?
No. And the other thing I realized is, I didn't realize how passionate the fan bases are about their fans and their music. Like, I make Eminem, could be Eminem versus Taylor Swift, and there was a lot of support. There was also a lot of hate. Like, I don't know.
I've got mad at you about it.
Yeah. I know. It's okay. Eminem, obviously. I mean, I hear Taylor Swift songs too because I'm in the car, the girls and what have you, but I'm okay either way. It's not a big hate love thing. So you got Eminem, Taylor Swift, Eminem Detroit, Taylor Swift KC, Grateful Dead 49ers.
Yeah, we debated that in the room before. E40 is going to be the one representing the Niners, but that's more new.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, Huey Lewis and the News. I mean, what do you do there? In Maryland, for Baltimore, I did a little tour thing, and the first early answers came back crab cakes, or Edgar Allan Poe. There's, I guess, a comedian or somebody, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's just have some fun. It'll be okay.
Well, Eminem's got a little bit easier travel going to San Fran instead of Taylor Swift going to Baltimore. Not gonna be as friendly, I would think.
I mean, what do you mean?
There's more diehard Ravens fans that not gonna be excited to see her in the stadium. I think
the fans are meaner.
I think San Fran, they'll be a little bit excited to see Eminem, although he is Detroit, the enemy, whatever. But
San Francisco's a very corporate crowd.
Exactly.
And as he joke, a very wine or white wine crowd. Baltimore is very passionate, but I don't know. I mean, did she get a bad welcome in Buffalo? Buffalo fans are very passionate. I don't
Right.
think they're hateful, but
I
they're
think Jason
passionate.
Kelce
She had the
helped
Jason
that.
Kelce bodyguard
he
with
helped,
her.
like kind of buffer whatever she was feeling in the game.
Yeah, I don't know.
He stole
I
the
mean,
show, right?
I mean, let me tell you, Baltimore, I've been to Baltimore. They've got passionate fans. They're blue collar. They're passionate. It's not Philadelphia.
Right.
I mean,
That's a
it's
different
not
breed.
New
It's not
York.
Buffalo. Yeah.
It's not It's not
Yeah.
Philadelphia. But I don't know. Buffalo's passionate. Baltimore's passionate. You know, I don't think there's that much hate in Baltimore. I think it'll be fine. She's in a suite. I mean, you know, got the Swifty Army looking after her.
Yeah, she'll be fine. Getting into some of the Chiefs injuries, they came out the more hurt side compared to the Ravens. Joe Thuney's a big one. I know they're waiting for the MRI results on that pec, but not looking good either way, right?
I think you can cross them off the list for the Baltimore game. Let's say it's not a pec tendon tear. Let's say it's not surgical. He didn't play the whole fourth quarter. By
Right.
video, it was clearly his right pec, his inside arm, the A-gap protection side for the left guard. You can't punch. You can't block a bull rush in the A-gap. You're done. And you can't play with it, period, whether it's a torn tendon or a muscle strain. Now, if they make the Super Bowl, that's 3 weeks away. If it's a muscle strain, could he maybe, but it's so important there. And I loved what Adam Schefter said on Pat McAfee this morning. He's right. That's an injury that's very difficult, especially for an offensive lineman. Love it. Instead of pec, does he play, not play? It's the position,
Right.
and it's the type of player. And to this side, it's even the side, because the A gap is a lot more important than the B gap, right? I mean, if you have A gap pressure, you've got nothing, right? That's what you protect first. So with that, unfortunately, Joe Thuney, I don't think is going to be able to play this week, period, regardless of the MRI results. And the MRI results might just give us a hint at the Super Bowl if the Chiefs make it. So that's early, not great news for the Chiefs.
They did have Nick Allegretti to step in. He started during the 2020 Super Bowl run, so
He's not bad.
not a bad plug and play guy. Backup free safety Mike Edwards left the game with a concussion.
And the other thing I'd say about that is we worry more if there's now the shuffle.
Right.
Okay, now the tackle slides in, or the other guard flips, or the center slides over. Now it's like new combinations. If it's
during the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, that's actually what happened, right? That's why we were a little worried, because there was no shuffle this time. There was that.
Yeah, this is just a 1-for-1, and it's Allegretti for Thuney. Now Thuney's an all-pro, first team all-pro, so there's no replacing Thuney, but there could be worse situations where there's a shuffle in the line and you don't have an Allegretti. So as good as Thuney is, Allegretti's not a bad backup. So there's still a difference, but you know, that's what it is.
Not the team you want that to happen ahead of, though. Taylor pointed out before that the Ravens had the defensive triple crown. If that exists, we might be creating it here, but led the league in sacks, fewest points allowed, and the most turnovers. So most of that's their stout defensive line. Jadeveon Clowney, most takeaways, right? Yeah. And Matt Abwiki having a big jump in the season, so that'll be
triple crown. How's their war? How's their whip?
The big thing too, I remember early in the season, the Ravens had a really, really big deal with their outside linebackers. Remember Ajabo, Owe, they signed Van Noy. Van Noy has 9 sacks.
Yeah. Can we just put a camera and microphone on him? I mean, he's trying to be kibitz from the side. Like, if you're going to join, you might as well just join. I mean,
you can tell he's got less and less field views to do every week.
He's got less work today because there's only 2 games coming up. It's like, what is going on here? You might as well just put a camera on and join. I mean, geez.
Stat guy's jumping in too much.
He's talking more than, look. Even on the McAfee show, okay, you got McAfee and you got AJ, then you got the front row guys, Boston Connor, who's the other guy, and then you got the control room guys. Right now, you're a control room guy. You're talking like you're like the front line. I mean,
we did extend the invite, so it's on you.
Yeah, whatever. It's on us.
It was mentioned Mike Edwards, the backup free safety, in concussion protocol during the season. That's been roughly 22%.
And it doesn't change for the postseason. It's not like, oh, this is more important. This could be his last game. Like, yeah, I got to look at it from the independent neuro standpoint. They're trying to do their job. And let's say they let Mike Edwards play and there's no big deal. Okay, fine. Let's say they don't let Mike Edwards play. It's still like, hey, I just stuck to my guns, right? The team doctor, someone else, man, you could have, should have, whatever, but what are you going to do? Okay. Let's say he lets them play and it's early or there's another concussion and she gets, whoever it is gets a lot of grief, like the one in Miami, and or name publicized or even a lawsuit. I mean, they're not going to say it's a playoff game, so therefore let's
not
just
worth the
let him
risk
go.
any more than it usually is for
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
You got to make the independent decision. And so right now that sits at 22%. And it depends on if he's got symptoms after the game and this morning, etc. And we'll see. Now, of course, as we talk to go to the Super Bowl, it's much better because you have 2 weeks.
Right.
But this is the standard, and it's the standard 7-game cycle. So we're at 22% chance that the Chiefs don't have free safety number 3.
Right, because Brian Cook's already out with the ankle fracture. Mike Edwards filling in for him, so it's going to be Deion Bush if Mike Edwards can't clear. Did mention that cornerback Taron Johnson came back for the Bills, was cleared within 1 week, so he met that 22%. He was in that 22%. So not impossible. No two concussions are alike, but
We had that offensive line
bigger uphill.
That's still in concussion protocol for the Chiefs. So that's
right. Yeah, Wanya Morris, I think it is. Going to the Ravens side, Mark Andrews.
And what about Willie Gay?
Willie Gay, you're right. Willie Gay, they were big on the broadcast mentioning that he's the spy. He's the main one spying Josh Allen. So as soon as he went out, Josh Allen had more room to run. Obviously a big deal against Lamar Jackson. So had a neck injury pop up on Saturday, re-aggravated during the Sunday game. He did already tweet that he's going to be good for game time next week. But
how does he know? I mean, I mean, first of all, is anybody going to tweet, I'm not good, sorry?
Sorry, guys.
Not looking great, guys. Probably not going to be there. I like the positivity, but you're right.
I do too. I like the positivity, but it depends on what kind of neck injury.
Yeah.
If his neck was a little stiff and sore, I see it. If he had radicular symptoms or neurologic symptoms, I don't see it at all. And we don't see any video of the injury.
Right.
And let me tell you, it didn't look like much in game that knocked him out, which actually makes me more worried.
Yeah.
So
he would have came back in if it was something less severe.
Yeah, it's not like he was directly related on a tackle and stuck his head in and might have aggravated the neck.
I know we do 6 scores and other things and we're in progress, but Thuney's
big
I said
down.
Mike Edwards is like this.
Right.
But Gay's on the doubtful side of questionable.
He's going to have to prove it in practice this week.
Yeah, and that'll be big. And how much will he practice this week? And yeah, he's been the good spy. So we'll have to see. That this could be big too. But
another decent backup in Drew Tranquil, just to mention. But Willie Gay's no replacing that also.
Yeah, Drew Tranquil's pretty good, but can he? Well, I guess can anyone keep up with Lamar? I mean, I don't know. Would you rather? There are some that. Yeah, I think Willie Gay's better to keep up with Josh Allen because their speed, but also size.
Right.
For Lamar Jackson, you might need a different spy. I don't know who you'd have, but you might need a different spy. That guy, is so fast.
Getting to Mark Andrews, left ankle fracture early in the season, kind of mid-November. He's had his practice window opened. It was kind of a questionable for this one, but then ruled out before the game. Do we see him coming back next week?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that he does. So when we really break it down, when he got hurt initially, he said he was done for the team said he was done for the season. We said, look, if they can make it to the Super Bowl, I can see him coming back. He's a little bit early.
Right.
We talked about it last week, did not see him coming back last week, despite 2 full practices. Definition of full. That's why we say we do injury analysis as opposed to injury reporting. The reports were 2 straight full practices. Well, the definition of full practice is you did everything that the team asked you to do. And if the team doesn't ask you to do a lot, you can get a full practice. Full practice does not mean full go or full health. It's just you did everything in practice. Limited practice, you did all but one or only one of all of the reps. Big variation.
Right.
But full practice is you did everything the team asked you to do. So Mark Andrews did everything the team asked him to do on Thursday and Friday, yet he was inactive. What does that tell you? He wasn't ready. They were just bringing him along slowly. At this point, if he plays this week, and it's possible that he will, it's more red zone targets. Not this week. Previous week, Sam Laporta.
Right.
Still lots of Isaiah Likely. And maybe you get to the Super Bowl, becomes more Mark Andrews. And people say, why? It's a fracture. It's 8 weeks, this, that, the other. The fracture is just the bone part. There's ligaments torn too. And along with the torn ligaments that need to heal, there's also soft tissue damage. Okay. So nothing ever is injured in isolation. The standard analogy I'll say is if I've used a pipe analogy, I'll say the pipe analogy is if you have a pipe break in your home and there's water everywhere, you fix the pipe break and the plumber comes and he fixes it. But are you done? What about all the water damage and the cleanup and what have you, and the flooring and the cabinets and the whatever, the paint and the drywall, right? Whatever else there is. That's what I mean by fracture disease and associated damage. Just because the bone's okay, there's still swelling and it's not 100%. There's lots of other analogies we could make, but there's downstream consequences, and that's what he needs to work through here. And I would see him potentially playing this week. It's just a roster spot situation, and, red zone targets probably is what he mostly would be good for. And that'd be good for the Ravens to have that.
Yeah. Early in the week, we're still crunching the numbers, but that game figures to be the guarantee game. If you want to sign up for Sick Picks, you get our guarantee for that game. And the playoffs, our guarantees are 4-0, including 3 road underdogs. So
yeah, I was the first week, we had the 3-0 guarantees, but that also meant the 3 least healthy teams got knocked out. And so every week the teams are healthier.
Yep.
Like some of us are headed to Radio Row and Super Bowl. Usually there's 1 or 2 injuries to talk about, but there aren't cluster injuries to ever talk about in the Super Bowl, except for that Tampa Bay Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Was the outlier.
That was the outlier. And for that one, there wasn't even a Radio Row.
Right.
There wasn't anything to do there. But yeah, so it makes sense. The healthier teams advance, and we look at other criteria, et cetera. But Marlon Humphrey, calf is a big one.
Right.
Kyle Hamilton looks good from his knee. We weren't sure he was going to be 100%. We knew he was playing. He looked good. Marlon Humphrey's the big one now. And calf's hard to play through, so we'll have to look at practice reports, even though we just poo-pooed practice reports. You got to at least get out there limited.
He DMP'd 3 straight.
Yeah, DMP in the past. So he needs to make some progress before we can start talking about him. Situation for Marlon Humphrey. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think anybody on the Ravens fans or coaching staff thought they'd be relying so heavily on Ronald Darby at this point in the season, but he's played pretty well in that role. Yeah.
He's got a good matchup because
right.
I'm not sure. I guess number 1 receiver is now Rashee Rice. Is it?
Yep.
So.
Not sure that he's 100%. Looks like we thought he may have bone bruise the previous week, and he was a half step slow today or yesterday.
Yeah, on the 2 early catches and then wasn't really involved until late, and he got dinged up on that one, but he did come back in. Yeah. But yeah, it might be tough for him to create separation with that left knee. Speaking a little bit of cluster, going to the Lions and Niners matchup, Lions did lose Jonah Jackson during that game. Frank Ragnow had a knee injury, did come back with a brace, but that's 2 key offensive linemen for them going up against the Niners.
Key up the middle, and the Niners have had D-tackle issues and just emerging from that. How many snaps did Eric Armstead get in the end? I know he played.
Yeah, he was in there quite a bit.
Almost more than I would have thought.
Right.
So that bodes well. Hargrave and Kinlaw, et cetera, up the middle bodes well. Obviously, Dre Greenlaw with his quote Achilles.
Right.
I would say Jackson is the same realm as Thuney, though. He's a very good player, Pro Bowl type. Yes, that's going to hurt them a lot.
So Dre Greenlaw seemed pretty good defensively. Got the 2 picks and tried to get a. I was like, Marlon McCree, go down. Charger fans get that reference.
My dad texted me that he set his own personal record of yelling "go down" during that last pick. So
well, you could, because it was like 12 seconds. It was a long time.
Yeah,
at least he didn't lateral or or whatever.
There's a fun stat that he ran 100 yards on those 2 interceptions and gained only 25. So he was doing a lot of roundabout.
25 is not bad.
Yeah.
I'll take that. But yeah, but that Joan Jackson's a big deal. I mean, I have some worry of a lateral meniscus tear on him. Frank Ragnow is going to play through, but clearly not 100%. So we'll see.
Also had the breaking news today, earlier this morning, that Zach Ertz has joined the Lions after the Brock Wright injury. So Laporta not 100%, but Zach Ertz coming on the team to provide some reinforcement. His left knee ACL was 2022 mid-September. So are we expecting him to be closer to 100% at this point?
Yeah, well, first of all, Sam Laporta much better this week, but a lot of his targets he didn't get targeted early. All of a sudden he got 3-on-1 drive, and then there's no Brock Wright, and then all of a sudden he got 6 more.
Majority of the action, yeah.
But it was still more underneath stuff than downfield stuff for Laporta. But he's much healthier this week. I think close to normal numbers, even though I don't think his knee is 100%. So pretty good there. Brock Wright was said shoulder, now forearm. We're looking at film, but he's basically out.
Right.
And
69% snaps for Eric Armstead. So he's
69%. Yeah, that's not bad. So they brought in Zach Ertz. Makes sense because their tight end coach is Steve Hayden. Steve Hayden was on the Chargers for a while. He was called Heidi. Yeah, everyone liked him.
Yeah.
I remember good kid, nice kid. I haven't talked to him in a while. Junior Seau nicknames everybody and whatever. He called him Heidi, and he tabbed him the kid that you want your daughter to date or marry or something like that, because he's a good kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a good coaching career now, and he coached Zach Ertz at tight end in Arizona, so knows him, knows the system. Zach Ertz, I think, can help the team. He can't have all the full package of plays, right?
I think that's when we talked about Norv Turner come on the podcast before, and just like how much can you pick up mid-season or even 1 week, but it does help that Zach Ertz knows the packages and stuff like that, like you said.
Yeah, and he's a smart player, and I'm not worried about his knee. I mean, it's more just getting acclimated, and I think that's a good addition, right? It's a good addition for them. They need somebody. He's a good addition.
The big one for every Niners fan worried about Deebo Samuel left the game with the left shoulder. This is the opposite side as his week six hairline fracture. They did say X-rays are negative, but I'm remembering that X-rays were also negative in week 6, and then the hairline showed up. So any worry of that this time?
Well, let's talk Deebo Samuel. Obviously, it's one of the biggest injuries out there. And yes, he did not return, which heightens the worry. But we go by what we see on video and the mechanism of injury. And the way that he got hit, it doesn't look to me like it's a scapula fracture. Yes, there's been the comparisons from Coach Shanahan, similar to week 6, and he missed 2 games. Yes, X-rays are negative, which I would have expected, but you're right. The way the scapula bone is shaped, you often need a CT scan or MRI to see the hairline fracture. I still think that it's not going to be a scapula fracture, and I do think that Deebo has a chance to play this week. The way they were working on him on the sideline, it almost looked like it was more muscular in nature. I would be on the cautiously optimistic side that Deebo will play this next week based on the video. Sometimes it's important, just as important, what you don't see as what you do see. And we don't see significant injury, assuming we have the right plays and the hit. So I think it's more muscle type injury, which gives Deebo a chance to play this week. And of course, Christian McCaffrey, much ado about nothing.
Yeah.
If it weren't CMC and he wasn't coming off a calf, I don't think anyone would have really showed or made a big deal about the Theragun on his thigh on the sidelines. I mean, that happens not infrequently. So cautious optimism for Deebo Samuel based on what we don't see there. And hopefully that will bear out with further testing here.
You weren't part of the Theragun era where you guys didn't have that on the sidelines?
Not exactly. Yeah, it was called the athletic trainer doing the massage, right? And, I mean, different ways. This one you can give it to the player and hit the spot he wants to hit. I mean, I've got a Theragun at home. I mean,
it just feels like they're around. They're so common in the ATC world.
Yeah.
just want to say Deebo did come back for the drive after, but decoy roll wasn't really using the shoulder. It looked like he was protecting it. So positive sign that he was able to at least try to get back out there.
Yeah, scapular fractures are painful. That's why I'm doubting scapular fracture right now based on video. Okay, I think it's more muscle and gives him a chance.
Yeah. Wanted to mention you touched about it on the top of the podcast that Kelce had a great game. Isaiah Pacheco also 15 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. Seems like the Bills' defensive injuries really caught up to them, especially in the linebacking core. I mean, they're down to third string with Terrell Bernard out. Matt Milano obviously gone for the season. So still a dominated time of possession, 37 minutes to 22. So it was interesting how that game ended up.
Yeah, I think, based on the defensive injuries of Buffalo, and of course no Gabe Davis, but defensive injuries of Buffalo that you've talked about, that's kind of why we liked him based on the numbers and the health advantage. And it showed with Pacheco. It even showed on the final drive of the game to get the first down, to get the kneel downs. You get stopped there, here comes the ball back, and let's say you get the ball back with 30 seconds. That's still enough time to get into field goal range, right? And then once you get to overtime, who knows? So even in that last drive, it was key that everyone knew they were going to run the ball. Everyone knew Pacheco was going to get it, yet he got the first down.
Right.
And that iced the game. So, yeah, he and of course, Kelce and so forth.
On behalf of all the -7.5 bettors, why in Tampa Bay Detroit game, why would you not call that final timeout and make him kick the field goal?
Okay, but before we get to that one,
yeah,
I would say, I don't know. There's less to talk about here. Games here. Well, let's talk game strategy first before we go talking about other things. I mean, I thought it was interesting. Okay, I get why Andy Reid didn't go for 2 to make it a 4-point game when there was the penalty offsides on the extra point. You could have put it at the 1. But you have to remember, Patrick Mahomes never sneaks the ball.
Right.
He doesn't even take the ball under center anymore since he dislocated his kneecap. Not that that play is particularly dangerous. They just made a conscious decision, we're not going to do it. So their complement of 1-yard plays is not the Eagles. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And they're not running a quarterback sneak. So I get why Andy Reid decided not to go for 2. Even though I get why you would go for it. This is where analytics meets practical, right? Analytics would say go for 2 there, right? It makes a difference, force the other team score a touchdown, the whole deal. But you got to know your team. But why take the penalty on the kickoff?
Yeah.
With all that wind, make it a 27-yard extra point instead of a 28-yard extra point instead of a 33-yard extra point, right? Does 5 yards make that much of it? I don't know, but when you kick off, you just kicked it in the end zone. You had the wind behind your back, so you kicked it through the end zone instead of 5 yards into the end zone. What difference did it make on the kickoff? Nothing. I would have just taken it. If you're going to not go for it, great. Take the penalty on the extra point field goal kick, extra point kick, just in case of the wind and other things. And obviously later on, there was a longer field goal that was missed. That's just a point of question. So you're talking about the next point is the Tampa.
Yeah.
Why did they not take the timeout?
Well, we can go to the 2-point in Tampa before that.
I know you guys listen to this for injury stuff.
I know, but we love picking your brain on the philosophies in the war room. So the philosophy of going for 2 when you're down.
I'm not a head coach.
Anyway, so yeah.
I'm not an analytics guy. I like analytics. And what I always say is you can't say pec injury equals this or MCL equals this. It has to be applied to the individual circumstance, to the individual person. In analytics, it has to be applied to the individual game. I don't particularly like going for 2 there. And just my personal opinion. And the reason why is this. They didn't get it, so it didn't matter. It has nothing to do with who had 6.5, who had 7.5, who cares? That's not what I'm saying there. What I'm saying is the psychology if you're down by 7, the psychology when you're up by 7 and the psychology if you're up by 8 isn't that different. But the psychology being up by 7 versus only up by 6 is huge. If you're up by 7 or up by 8, you don't expect someone to score a touchdown and go for 2 and beat you.
Right.
You do expect someone to go for 2 and tie you at 8. You do expect someone to kick the extra point and tie you at 7. But if you're up 6 and you punt the ball away, now you're under pressure to lose the game. And I think what that does is it changes your offensive aggressiveness. If you're only up by 6, you're running your regular offense and being more aggressive, and maybe you get the first down. If you're up by 7, you're more passive and you go ahead and punt the ball away, run. Like they were up by 8, Detroit. They ran the ball and, here you go, right? Kind of deal. And so therefore, I think that's why I don't like going for 2 there. I get the numbers of 2 points and you can make it up if you don't, and the chances of extra points, missing this, that, the other, but it changes what's going on. Let's take Brock Purdy, for instance. And by the way, if we're doing game analysis, right, we talked about it here. I don't know if people like this stuff, but Josh Allen threw deep a couple times in that last drive. Even if he scores, it's like a minute 40, a minute 50 on the clock for Patrick Mahomes. Okay, they're down 4, but now they get 4 downs to try and score the touchdown to win, which is a huge advantage. Brock Purdy, congratulations. Proved a lot of naysayers still wrong. He's a good quarterback. That was a great drive, but I would argue that wasn't a chase. And I would argue that although he never got to a 4th down on that final drive, you knew they were going for it on 4th down, which makes the couple of 3rd down plays a little more relaxing to convert, right? You can play a little more free without pressure on you because you have 4 downs to get it. So you have different options out there. So I think that's part of the psychology where I go back and say it's different if you go for 2 there. I don't like it. And it's different when you're down by 4 in the last minute or 2 minutes because because you have 4 downs to get it. Even if you don't get to 4 downs, that psychology is better. Like on a 3rd and 1, isn't the psychology different when you say, you're going to go for it on 4th down?
Yeah.
It's psychology is different. The play calling is different. Everything is different. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. There's going to be a ton of Brock Purdy
customized analytics, just like
go.
Customized injury analysis. Customized. It depends on what the play call you have, this, that, the other, and so forth. I mean, I don't disagree with going for that 4th and 5 fake punt. I don't necessarily disagree with that. If you have the perfect play call and you're doing it because there's only 6 guys in the box and you have 7 to block them. But if you just called that play and you were just going to run that play regardless, I don't know, you need a better play than that, right?
Yeah.
And those guys up front, they're not blockers.
we went back and looked, and they're all speed guys.
They're all guys covering downfield guys. And okay, you can't put your blockers in because it tips your hand.
You want to disguise it a little bit, yeah.
But you can't say, well, look, obviously, if there's 6 men in the box and no one else is there, and you have 7 guys in the box to block him in a normal circumstance, that is a 100% run. Right. I get that. But those aren't the same 7 blockers that you normally would have. These are, DBs and linebackers and guys who can get downfield and make tackles. So it's just different. I don't know.
We talked about some head coach vacancies last podcast. Just want to update. Harbaugh going for a second interview for Chargers. Belichick, second interview with Falcons. I don't know that I've heard any second interviews and it's like, oh, okay, all of a sudden there's a curveball and they go with somebody else. When we're hearing about second interviews, is that like the head coach is already locked up or?
No, I mean, if you look at it, first of all, look at all the interviews that have happened this year. Atlanta's done like a dozen.
Tennessee's at like 10, I think. Yeah.
Why is that happening? The rules are changing in how you interview people, and Zoom interviews make it a little bit easier. But let me let you in on another secret. I don't think it's secret. Every interview is free consulting. Hey, tell me your philosophy. What would your philosophy be if you were our head coach? Who do you like and not like on our offense or our defense?
Right.
In theory, it's a free consulting opportunity to pick someone else's brain because they're trying to get the job. They're trying to show off what they would know and do. You sort of get a feel of your own team. I think a lot of teams now interview a lot of people because of the free consulting it gives you. Not that they're fake interviews, and I'm not getting into Rooney Rule or anything else. It's just like there's not a lot of downside to interviewing a lot of people. And there has been a trend towards second interviews and so forth. The first one might be, tell us what you think about our team. The second one is, okay, this is what we would want you to do. Harbaugh's going for a second interview. Bill Belichick's already had a second one in Atlanta and Harbaugh.
You spoke about Cliff Kingsbury doing this specifically. Remember on Twitter, because they base about Justin Fields or
with the Bears.
Yes.
With the Bears, I mean, look, I'm not saying Cliff Kingsbury is not a candidate to be offensive coordinator for Matt Eberflus. I don't know the ties. I'm not saying he's not, but why wouldn't you bring in Cliff Kingsbury just to ask him about Caleb Williams and what he thinks about Caleb Williams and what he would do with Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields, right? I mean, it's free consulting is what it is. But I'm not saying teams have no intention of hiring that person. It's just a low bar to say, let's do one more interview, especially if it's Zoom. And even if they're flying them in, the price of a plane ticket is kind of deal. And so that's why there's so many of them. But yeah, I mean, there's a plan going on. And usually what happens is the dominoes start to fall, right? Then boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden a bunch happen in a row. And rumor is Jim Harbaugh's going for a second interview this week, maybe tomorrow in LA or something. I like Jim Harbaugh, as we talked about last week, even though he's a bit quirky. But let me tell you something. I didn't know that it came through based on last week's podcast. He is as committed to winning and fiery inside and competitive as Dan Campbell. Now, he's not going to say, I'm biting kneecaps off, but
he does it a different way.
He does it a different way. I mean, look, Dan Campbell, you could see might take a swing at a commentator potentially. I'm not impugning his. Jim Harbaugh did that, right? Jim's fiery, man. He, I think he gets this Pollyanna. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. Okay, but now inside he's got that winning fire. And what I love about Jim, the same thing I said to you when Dan Campbell got hired. I said, I love that guy. I don't know where he came from, but I love that guy. The kneecaps and things, because he seemed very authentic. You can't get away with being fake in the NFL. That is Dan Campbell. This is Jim Harbaugh. And they both are great leaders, both very competitive. But I think being authentic is the biggest character that you need to have besides being a leader, because you're around each other so much. Whether you're a nice guy and authentic, or hard ass and authentic, or overly competitive and authentic, or whatever it is, you got to be yourself. And I think Jimmy is himself. Yeah. And I think Dan Campbell is himself. And Belichick is Belichick, right? Yeah. I mean, these guys, when you do what you are all of the time, even Kyle Shanahan is Kyle Shanahan. He's pretty smooth and straightforward. So I think those are guys who can be successful.
Is that why you're able to cross from like college to NFL? Like Carroll, like he kept it his exact same. Like I know some people can't do NFL and college. Like he's able to do both because he's the same throughout, right?
It's a different game, obviously, and nowadays NIL and college, there's more recruiting than scheming, and you only get so many hours with the guys. It's different a little bit, but I think, like I said last week, Jimmy makes a great CEO. Jim Harbaugh makes a great CEO, great president. He's a great leader in terms of what's going on. Pete Carroll's shown, a lot of people have shown that. So good on them. And the Chargers, I think, clearly want someone with NFL head coaching experience because they feel they're built to win. So I hope Jimmy gets the job. I think he will. I hope he agrees on the terms. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you'd put Antonio Pierce in that category, right? As far as authenticity.
Yeah. I don't know Antonio Pierce personally, but from what I've seen, obviously he's done very well. And I think he benefits from, Rich Bisaccia not getting hired last year, right? I mean, Rich Bisaccia didn't get hired, and they went Josh McDaniels or 2 years ago, whatever it was. And then here's another interim situation again, and he's getting all the support. And okay, you're going to try and do this again and say, look, I'm going to bring in someone else outside. Mark Davis is human. He's an owner. It's like, okay, the players want this. I passed on the last guy that they kind of liked and it didn't work out, so I got to go with them this time. And I saw Tom Telesco's getting a second interview. There's a couple GM second interviews going on there too. So I think in the end, like I always say, when something doesn't make sense from the outside, it does from the inside. They know what they're doing on the inside in terms of what's happening.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts with the offseason kicking off for most teams. Already saw Max Crosby undergo left knee surgery start of the offseason, then Kyron Williams also the hand surgery. So keeping notes for our preseason preview next year already.
I mean,
track.
Max Crosby done very well, and obviously it's not unusual once you get bursitis early season, you're dealing with it all season long. Obviously, it got to a point where it was really bad and infected, right? So kudos to Max Crosby. He played through. But I keep telling people there's 3, 4, or 5 times more surgery in the off season than in season. The busiest day for a team doctor is the day after you lose exit physicals.
Yeah.
That's the busiest day.
The Rams lost, and a couple days later, Kyron Williams got surgery on his broken bone that he had.
I guarantee you there's more than that. You just haven't heard about the other Rams that are undergoing surgery yet.
I'll say with social media, it seems like there are more surgeries, but back in your day, it wasn't an opportunity to get out ahead of it and put it on social media and whatever.
I remember routinely on the day after the thing, we'd come in knowing there'd be a handful, 5, 6, 8 or more surgeries. There are years we scheduled 12 surgeries on that last day.
Wow.
Not for the next day.
Right.
Some of them like, can I go home first for a little bit and then come back? Okay, fine. I mean, because your recovery timeline isn't that long. Some of them are like, look, we'll give you, this is showing the years that I worked with the Chargers when we didn't win. We'll give you to this. Often I would say, all right, let's give rest a chance. It's a lingering thing, but you want to go into next season healthy and you want to have a full off-season program. Your recovery timeline is, let's say, 6-8 weeks, which means that if you do it by the Super Bowl, then you've got time for the off-season program. We do the reverse math. And a lot of times you say, all right, why don't you take now in the Super Bowl the rest? But by the Super Bowl, if you're not 100%, we're doing that shoulder cleanup scope or that knee, this, that, the other kind of thing. So it's not like we did them all the next day kind of thing, but we would talk about all those scenarios. And if there was a surgery that had a long timeline, you're talking 6-month recovery or more, say, we got to do it right now. No, don't go home. Do it, stay a week, and then go home. I mean, we got to do it now because time is not on our side.
Yeah. Just last topic I had, just thinking about kickers and Tyler Bass missing that one. And I think it was interesting, the Matt LaFleur thing that came up during the Packers game, like right before Anders Carlson kicked it, that he told, I forget who the reporter was, but he had mentioned that, every time I go out there, he prays. I pray for that he's going to make it. But LaFleur in his press conference after said, I hate that he brought that up. I said that in jest, and I thought that was between us.
Well, that's interesting. I don't really know Matt LaFleur. I think you can take him at face value that he said it in jest. If that's the case, then is it Tom Rinaldi or whoever?
I think it was Tom Rinaldi. I don't want to, I'll double check that.
You're going to get some grief, and that coach is not going to tell anyone anything. That's a big
that's how that works.
violation of what's going on. And I told you guys before, the broadcast crew meets with the head coach, key players, the quarterback at times, and like Tony Romo, he's getting some grief lately, whatever. But part of what he knows is he's talking to the OC, the head coach, and or the quarterback, saying, if we see a cover 2, we're going to hit it this way. And then he comes out and he sees the cover 2 and say, they're going to throw to the tight end over the middle, right? I mean, sometimes he's smart because he really knows football, but sometimes he's getting hints too as to what it is. And, but you're not supposed to ever violate that. And that, I can see.
LaFleur got mad at him this morning. I don't know if you saw, he said it was in jest, and he said he took it out of context. And
and I get that. He's also good for Matt LaFleur, protecting his players. And he should be mad that it got repeated, but he also should be a little mad at himself. Don't say things in jest that can get misinterpreted. I mean, you got to be a little more careful than that. It's not funny, right? I mean, kind of situation. I get when you juxtapose comments and so forth.
I thought it was great. The kicker came out right after he had asked by the media, and he said, I just hit the wrong spot on the ball. Like, that's on me. So incredible that not a lot of athletes wouldn't do that. Not to throw him on the bus, it's a tough position to be in. But
Tyler Bass, he
Yeah.
didn't blame the wind, he didn't blame the hole, he didn't blame anything else. He didn't blame we should have gotten a few yards closer, this, that, the other. He just said, I missed it. I
Yeah.
hit the wrong spot. And I think people respect that. And let me tell you, internally, people know about wind, people know about bad holes. They know, I mean, internally. And it's a lot to just own up to it. I'm trying to tell my 11-year-old son that it's okay. Just it's okay. Not everything is fair, and it's okay.
It's not that helpful to throw the long snapper under the bus if it was on him.
Yeah.
Better just say, oh, it's on me to make it.
All right. I got a question for you.
Yep.
Guys. More impressive performance. Travis Kelce, 2 touchdowns, 75 yards, won the game on the road. Heart emoji Taylor Swift.
Hit it all, yeah.
Or Jason Kelce, shirtless, crushing beers, Bills Mafia tailgating, jumping into the stands. More impressive Kelce brother performance.
I'm taking Jason Kelce. I think we talked about why Travis Kelce had the advantage on the field, but Jason Kelce is in enemy territory, you could say, and put on quite the performance. So
no one's touching. I mean, the best part was the mom just shaking her head like, okay, I've seen this before.
Did you see on the Bleach Report, I think they showed up text messages of his daughter saying, "Dad's boobs are showing." Like, oh, they were having fun. They're used to their dad acting like that. They know.
That's great.
That when they won the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
I mean, look, you got to think that he is on some panel next year.
Yeah.
Whether it's Amazon or
they tried to do that earlier in the year,
or the coming revamp of CBS.
Yeah.
And younger, hipper, whatever.
I think it's interesting too. I mean, we talk about the real-time injury reporting, but the real-time retirement reporting is like a little iffy. I mean, Schefter, like minutes after the game is over, Jason Kelce told, not minutes after, but Jason Kelce told his teammates that it's probably the last year for him. And then he comes on his own podcast and says, that's not really what I told him. I just told him, hey, you guys are going to do great next year, no matter what. Which is that coach speak? Can we enter in the coach speak category of who's telling the truth there?
I would say that they're both telling the truth, but the truth of the matter is Jason Kelce told his teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah. In not so many words.
Just a little upset
he didn't
that
say,
it got out. Yeah.
I'm officially retiring. I said, yeah.
You'll be good next year with or without me.
Yeah.
Or
laying the groundwork.
Hey, love you, brother. I think it's it for me. Right. But it's not definite. It's not in stone. He's entitled to change his mind, seeing Tom Brady. And honestly, it's on his teammates to keep quiet.
Yeah.
Let the man do it on his own terms.
Yep.
And it's up to Schefter, if he hears about it, to report it.
Right.
Not hating on
no
anybody.
one's done anything wrong. Really.
I can respect Jason Kelce said, I don't want to talk to the media right now. I can respect that he was telling his boys. I respect that if Schefter got sources and heard about it, that he reported it.
Yeah. Not going to
sit incumbent on the boys to, keep the circle of trust. I mean, is all I'm saying.
I think that's why Mike Tomlin did the smart thing. You going to be here next year? Just walks off.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of different ways to handle it. I think he probably was irritated about something else or something. I mean,
a little bit of stuff leading up to that for sure.
I mean, I think you can handle it just so well as this is a post-game press conference. And I'm not going to fuel any rumors either way.
Right.
I'm not going to answer that question in one way or another, negatively or positively. This is not the time to talk about that. But then people would feel, oh, he's not coming back, or I mean, right?
They read it however they want.
They read it however they want to. So it's a hard position, no question.
Does that make Jason Kelce the beast of the week, or are we giving it to both Kelces?
I don't know, or mom. No, I don't know. I mean, look. It's just me. Those beer cans look like the mini Diet Cokes that people have sometimes. I mean, there were regular beer cans, I'm sure. Natty Boys or whatever they drink over there. But I mean, I'll give it to them. And then I mean, Jason Kelce, why not? Good career, the whole deal, and go enjoy life shirtless.
Yeah.
I get he was indoors in a suite sort of, but still, it's still cold. But, the most impressive thing to me might be go back and look at the video. See, you look at Jason Kelce and you think of him as a big fat guy.
Nope.
Do you see what McAfee said? The way he jumped back into the.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like nobody in this room could have done that. I certainly couldn't have done. I mean, he didn't even. It was just like natural. It was like that was like taking one step up a ladder. I mean, he just went, and popped himself up like a little ninja.
Yeah.
And he's no little ninja. I mean, but that's the thing that I will tell you about all these guys in the NFL, the big ass offensive linemen. They are athletes off the field. I remember playing. I didn't play. I think I told you. It was a co-ed softball team in the off season. We had some NFL linemen on it. And my wife got asked to play because they needed more women. And I got asked to man the ice and the cooler and the beverages and maybe tend to injuries. I didn't, they weren't even, they had enough guys. But very fluid athletes, even on us. I get it, softball, but just you can see athletes move. That's the key. They're all very fluid athletes. Jason Kelce is not just this ogre, big, strong guy. That's it. He is an athlete. And that's what comes through. I mean, I know it's just jumping in and out of a window, but still.
Well, I think you really see it too when they have the replays behind the offensive line and you see those guards or center even pulling. It's those guys are getting out there quick. It doesn't look like it because the rest of the guys are just as athletic. But
and as I always said, the difference between Division I football offensive line is not size; it's quickness between the NFL and the guys that aren't in the NFL in college, big time colleges. They line them up. Size wise, they're all there. It's the athleticism and quickness that isn't the same at the next level.
Yeah, I just want to mention before we sign off, NBA coverage is going on at sixscore.com. You can head to our NBA page. It's going to dominate more of the front page once football wraps up. But we're tracking all the injuries, got all the insights up there too. So anything you want NBA wise, we got it there.
Perfect. And knock on wood, the quote perfect playoff record so far.
Yeah.
We'll see. One more week to give it a go there at sick picks and so forth. The algorithm has been good, and it gets harder every week because the healthy teams prevail and the injured teams get knocked out.
Spreads are better.
Like we were like this week we found Buffalo as one, but they're out now, so you can't rely on them. Previously we said the Eagles are one, they're out. You can't use them anywhere. Miami, they're out, right? So you only can use them one time. It's like a knockout pool. They're out, and then you got to move on to something else. Only 2 games this week and then Super Bowl. So thank you. Sports Injury Central Pro Football Doc podcast. We'll concentrate more on some basketball stuff, but also we'll have guests in the off season. So go to SIC Score, Sick Picks, whatever it is. And thanks for listening and watching. And 5-star review is always appreciated.